and up and over. I'll speak to one of the guys now. I just saw somebody come past me, so they'll know whether or not those tracks are fresh or if they didn't see anything there. Right, now while I kind of have a look and just check on these tracks and make 100% sure on what's going on, let's go back to Noelle, who must be loving her stroll through the morning air in Djuma. It's a beautiful day to be out on a walk.
I'm definitely enjoying my stroll. Thank you, Tristan. It was a hard clip for a moment, and now it's just a stroll. So, Madeline, you were asking what's inside my backpack. So, I'm really chuffed. This is my new walking bag. I picked this up from a local South African company that works not far from us. So, inside of here, I have deodorant. I have my bird book. I have note paper. I have pen. I have an extra earpiece. I have sunscreen, which I actually forgot to put on today, now that I'm remembering. Water, of course. I don't have my my bladder inside. You guys would know it as a camel pack in the States because I can't find it because that's just the way this morning went. And then sometimes there'll be things like apples or bananas. If it's a very, very long walk and I don't have Herbie with me, then there'll be a first aid kit in there. It changes from time to time. But that's basically the bare essentials. And then what we've got here, thanks Madeline, that was a good question. I enjoyed that one. Well, I enjoy all your questions, so you're going to hear me say that a lot. What we've got here is something that's very, very interesting. So we've got acacia trees, okay? So acacia trees have thorns, not spines. This is a spine. If you look here, so a spine is a branch that's been modified, okay? And then a thorn, come back up this side, this is a nice beautiful big thorn up here. A thorn is a leaf that's been modified. So we talked about auxiliary buds. Auxiliary bud would be just down there. So when these thorns first grow, they're green and flimsy and they're actually quite edible. Kudu, impala, giraffe, they really love them. Then as the tree is eaten more and more and more, these thorns grow longer and thicker and harder to try and deter species from eating it. So you can actually see on this particular acacia tree, parts of it have been broken off, probably from elephant, but you can see here there's no leaves growing here with these thorns. Up here on this side, there's no leaves growing up here with these thorns. Those have been eaten to the point where they cannot browse, I'm going to be as technical as possible, where they cannot function anymore. Now with a thorn tree like an acacia tree, these leaves are very, very sweet, very edible. Browsers and mixed feeders love them. But with a lot of the trees that have the spines, like the ones that we're looking down here, they're not as edible. This will have something more like fruits or flowers that participate within the ecosystem and help everything function. And then this this acacia tree that we're looking at, helping with nitrogen fixing in the soil and allowing for other plants and grasses to grow around. Not a lot of grass at the moment. We haven't had enough rain yet, but they're all waiting. All the roots are definitely waiting. Becca, so you're asking, does anything ever get caught on those thorns? I've actually, not those particular thorns, but I've actually seen there's other acacias that have paired hooked thorns that go like this, and I've seen birds get caught in them. Giraffes very easily get around that, kudu get around that, impala get around that, elephants just rip it off and eat it and grind it within their teeth. But yeah, definitely very, very pointy. You can actually use them as a sewing needle if you really, really needed to in the bush, or for, let's say you get a wound that's festering and you need to let it out, you can put it in there and let it out, and then actually use the leaves from the jackalberry, chew them up, put them on, and that will help take care of the sore for sure. All right, so we're going to carry on down. I know we're walking on the road. I'm not really a fan of walking of the road. Oh, Proud Cat Mama wants to know if I've ever had a scary moment on a bushwalk. So I've had many moments where your heart rate goes up a bit. As far as scary, I think a moment that really got me going a little bit too much. I was helping to train some guides in another southern African country, and we were busy tracking black rhino, and we were busy working on how do you follow, how do you track, how do you trail. We've been trailing him for about 2, 3, 4 kilometers, something like that. And the wind switched just as we found him, and this black rhino started coming. And all you can do is just sort of, at that point, all we could do, every scenario is completely different and the scenarios change, is dive under bushes. And I did not think that that scenario was going to end well. It did take a little while to talk about afterwards, but now after I tell you that story, I think actually the scariest, I was with an old mentor of mine. We were walking with some students and we were busy looking for elephants, and this man who I used to work with is very tall, so I've walked with him enough that his body language I read very well. So all of a sudden his whole body just sort of tensed, so I stopped and I grabbed the girl behind me and just squeezed a little bit, like just don't say anything, so she'd pass the squeeze on. And then I very slowly turned back to him and he moved just a half an inch so that I could see past him, and there was a huge, probably 4-meter black mamba that was busy going through ecdysis, so it's when they shed and they can't see out of their eyes. And it had raised itself pretty much, so it heard us coming, but it obviously can't see us. And as we know, the venom from a black mamba, within 20 minutes to 4 hours, depending on how it goes through your system, how much venom comes in, you can die from it. You're not always going to die, but you can die from it. So we basically had to stand there, stock still, waiting for this mamba to decide, is he going to strike? Then he would have struck my mentor in front, or is he going to move off? And I don't know if it was 2 minutes, I don't know if it was 20 minutes, I don't know if it was an hour, but yeah, it was not a good situation. And he and I actually couldn't talk about that scenario for a good long while without wanting to sort of throw up a little bit, because that was not pleasant. Not pleasant at all. But I'm here, I'm alive, obviously. So Herbie was just beckoning, so we're gonna go over to Herbie. Alright, so we were looking for lions. Taylor is also looking for lions, so we are going to head back to Taylor up in Kenya and see if she has anything in store for us. I do hope her some luck, wish her some luck, and yeah, we'll see you shortly.
So we've moved away from our sausage tree pride lions. They're not around. I don't know if they've gone up the escarpments or they're sitting on the hill or they're in the forest somewhere. But unfortunately they're not in an area where we can see them, which is a bit sad. So now we've come around to where the Angamas like to lay about. We saw one lion actually very far off the road, fast asleep. I don't know where the rest of the pride is. They might also just be laying amongst the bushes. We didn't want to come to a non-off-roading area, but we've pretty much exhausted some of our options. I think I'm going to have to go back across to the other side of the river tomorrow. There just isn't much happening around here at all. Now, there was a question from Jenny Animation with regards to how do we deal with the vermin around camp. We don't. Since I've been at Wild Earth, we haven't had to. I suppose there's not a lot of excess waste, though. In a lodge, it's a different story, though, because you're catering for so many people. There's a lot more sort of food and things around in the recycling bins, that type of thing, so that does attract them. Then they'll have to deal with them. But for us, we just let the snakes do their jobs, the raptors, they seem to take care of them quite well, so we don't actually have to do anything at all. The only thing we do sort of will try and prevent is the malaria. We were talking about it the other day. So in the Sabi sand, the government comes and sprays around the camps, and they spray to try and keep the mosquitoes away, because malaria is quite prevalent in that area. Okay, we're going to head, I think, up towards the marsh, which should be quite slippery and fun, and maybe we find those 2 lionesses that hang around there. Tristan, however, finally, nature has rewarded him with a birthday present.
I have indeed, and look at that. That's the best birthday present you could ever wish for, and it's our young male Hosana. So I've just come down right onto the southern boundary, checked around the Mulawati, and well, as we came out of the Mulawati, this was what greeted us, is a little leopard sitting right next to the road. So how obliging of Hosana to be sitting there right next to us. I'm so excited to see him, and he's looking wonderful as always. Our young boy has really blossomed into a fine individual, and he's been all over the place lately, but super excited that he's around here and that he's in this area. Of course, he is just south of the boundary at the moment, so he is technically in Little Gowrie, but he's right on the road, which is perfect. And hopefully, given that he was south the whole... Oh, what's wrong, boy? You had a tough night. maybe he partied with Scott last night and that's why he's feeling a bit sorry for himself and putting the paw over his face. I think it's also there's a number of flies around that are maybe biting him, but look at the size of that paw now. His paws have gotten massive, and in relation to the size of his head is pretty incredible. What are you doing, boy? He's a funny cat, this individual. Now, I believe a lot of you are excited that I managed to find a leopard on my birthday. Well, I can't tell you how excited I am myself. It's such a cool thing to see, and I really was giving up hope a little bit because I didn't really think we'd be able to find anything, given that we have a situation where, you know, we've checked all the usual spots, and I was a bit concerned that I think I was going to go without a leopard on my birthday morning. But as you can see, things have changed slightly and we've managed to find it. Now, there is Peter behind me, and Peter is going to join us with a leopard right here. So he's, unfortunately, I don't think Peter noticed that it was there, but anyway, I'm just going to say hello to Peter. Hello Villiers, how are you guys? Thank you very much. So everybody on the vehicle is saying happy birthday, which is very kind of them. It's got two friends on the vehicle. One is Peter, who obviously works at Nkoro and I know very, very well, and the other one is a guy called Villiers, Villiers is a photographic guide, and he spends a lot of time here, and he lives in Hoedspruit and is one of our very good friends from Hoedspruit, and his wife and Ali are very good friends, and so that's why they know it's my birthday. So all the guests were just saying happy birthday, which is very kind of them. It's not something that I would have expected from them, but that's very nice. Now Hosana, I think, is going to have a very, very big nap. It is starting to get warm now, so I think for now he's going to be fairly sleepy. The thing is that he is right on the main road, which means that I'm pretty sure this individual is going to wake up and probably move. Now I'm really hoping that today he heads towards Twin Dams and that this afternoon he sits at Twin Dams and just really kind of entertains us the way that he likes to do, particularly at that dam itself. He's been an absolute treat, and we were talking earlier about highlights, and one of my biggest highlights, or two of them, has been with Hosana at Twin Dam. So one with the Tumba incident, like I was discussing earlier, and the second one was watching him stalk impalas on the dam wall. It has got to be one of the most epic stalks I've seen, not because he actually was successful or because of, you know, anything else other than the fact that the light was absolutely unbelievable. He leopard crawled straight towards us. We had him on his belly walking straight basically at the camera, and then he sat and he hid in complete open with the impalas walking past him, and it was just the most amazing display of camouflage and also just of Hosana's coming of age, because he went from, you know, a young male that was hunting terrapins, and then when I watched him with those impalas, I realized very quickly that this individual has figured out exactly how to do things. He might have missed and not gotten anything, but given what he was working with and the open space that he was in, it was just unbelievable to watch him going about his thing, and to see how patient he's become. He was waited, and he allowed those impalas to come really close, and he didn't flinch at all until unfortunately the last impala spotted him. But it was an amazing display of Hosana's kind of prowess and his character as he's gone about things. It's so funny though, I almost drove right past him. I thought I didn't even see him. I was busy looking for tracks in this area and kind of driving around, and then I reversed slightly and I just saw this face staring at me, so we almost ended up driving right past him, which would have been a bit of a tragedy. But anyway, at least we've managed to find him and catch up with him. But how beautiful is he looking? He doesn't seem to have a very full belly at this stage, but he has been feeding quite well. So since he's been on Little Gari, I know that he's had a number of different kills. He's been eating duiker and steenbok, and he's had a few scrub hares that he's killed. So he's done just fine, and he's been feeding quite nicely, and so he's really looking very good. Sassy, you say he's growing up into such a handsome boy. He is, isn't he? He's becoming a really stunning individual, and like I say, he's becoming big and powerful, and he's starting to look more and more like a male leopard. The other day when I saw him and I saw that little dewlap starting, it's almost like a proud moment when you see a leopard kind of coming of age and that little dewlap starts to hang down, and it really is very special to see him growing. And we've been so fortunate, we've been really spoilt, and I know I've said this a lot of times, and unfortunately it's probably not going to last for many more months, but we've been absolutely spoilt by Hosana and Tumba. The two young boys have been the core of our leopard sightings for the last few months, and they've thoroughly entertained. They've both got their own uniqueness about them. Both of them are extreme characters in their own regard, in that they both kind of get up to nonsense all the time, and they really have been two individuals that have thoroughly looked after us over the past few months. You know, with the loss of Kruger and her not being around, it's been a wonderful thing to be able to have these guys with us and to be able to see them, you know, on a day-to-day basis, and to see them as regularly as we have has been a very special thing. And I'm pretty happy that Tingana has been as tolerant as he has, because, you know, without his tolerance, I would have thought Hosana might have been long gone from here. And we know Tumba is pushing south at the moment into Mala Mala. Why he's down there, I'm not quite sure, but hopefully he'll be pushed back up into this area, and we'll see the two of them up in this section again at some stage soon. Right, while we sit with little Hosana, who hopefully will wake up at some point, although I think he's found himself a nice shady spot and seems as though he's going to be really pleasantly sleeping in that shade. Let's go back to Noel, who I think is looking at something that maybe Hosana might want to get into at some stage today.
I'm so excited for Tristan. He found his birthday leopard. That is the best gift ever. It's all we know he wanted. Who knows what else he would like. So we were asked earlier, are there any poisonous, any toxic trees in the area? So we have found you a tambueti, which Andre was just focusing on nicely. Very fissured, very dark, very corky. Well, corky's not really the right word, but definitely hard textured tree. And then grows straight up, very similar to leadwood. Very indicative of sort of clay soils. So for instance, if we were following Hosana and it had just rained quite a lot and we come to an area that has a lot of tambuetis, you're going to know not to off-road there because it's going to look firm, but then it's not actually firm. So if you take off the leaves, it's not doing it very nice. But there's usually a little thick milky latex, and that, if you get into your eye, is going to be a problem. Giraffe can eat this, and eland can eat this. Elephants from time to time, they have no problem, but for us it's not good at all. Then when it starts to fruit and the seeds come, you get this little worm, or larvae rather, that sits inside it. It makes the seeds pop open. So I'm hoping in the next few weeks we'll be able to show you that. But I've just noticed now, while we're standing here, something very, very interesting just up here at the end of my stick. You see that bump that's coming out on that little stick there? It's from a gall wasp. So they come and they inject their larvae into the branch, and then the branch sort of swells around it, sort of like when you get a thorn into your finger and then it swells around it, and then when they hatch they come out, and then obviously the branch stays like that. Then we are also talking about a wound. What can you do with a wound? And just back here we've got a really beautiful jackalberry tree. Just meander slowly through the bush here. Herbie and I were chatting just now. There's sometimes a buffalo that likes to be in here, so we've scouted the area before we came in just to make sure that no buffalo creeps up on us while we're busy with you on camera. It's fine if we see him first, but we don't want him to see us before we see him. Okay, so this tall in the background, and then here our jackalberry tree. Take these leaves, chew them up, and then you put them as a paste on your skin. And there's a guide that I worked with. He's probably been guiding for over 30 years, a Shangaan guide, and he's taught me so much about the bush. This is one of the things that he taught me, but he's really interesting. He's illiterate. He's extremely brilliant at what he does. So what I would do is I would bring him samples, and then he would quiz me and ask me, and if I didn't know the answer right away, he would just walk away. He wouldn't say anything. Then he would come back, maybe a day later, and give me the book and say, page through. And we'd page through, we'd find the picture, and he goes, that's the one that you should know, if I couldn't find it in the book. He was absolutely amazing. Herbie actually knows him as well. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to meander back through and then out of the drainage system. I'm hoping maybe we find some bookies. Maybe we get this buffalo that's in here. Maybe we get lucky and we find another leopard. You never know. But we are going to carry on. So Tristan's with his birthday leopard, so we're going to send you back there and see what our sleepy leopard and Tristan have in store for us.
Well, I think Hosana, like I say, is going to have a really solid nap right next to the road. I think he's decided this is where he's going to sleep for now. He's got a beautiful shady spot from the guarri tree, but as that sun is starting to go up now, so that shade is getting less and less and less. And if we sit here for a while, I would imagine that shade is going to dissipate and he might then start to wake up and move. I think he's probably going to go northwards, hopefully towards Twin Dams, and might settle there for the afternoon. That's at least what I think anyway, but you never know. He's a little man on his own mission these days, and he tends to go up and down all over the place. Michael, you're asking if the cat's foot pads ever wear out. So, no, not that I've ever seen. I mean, I've never seen a foot pad wear out. In fact, you'd probably find they get more calloused than anything else. So they get to a situation where they kind of become quite sort of hard, and it's much like our feet. I mean, our feet don't wear out and our pads don't wear out, and so we have a situation where, you know, we end up kind of, the more we utilize our feet, the harder they become, and the more resilient they are to wear and tear. And so no, their pads never wear out. And I know with Safari, who was a 19-year-old leopard, which is incredibly old, much older than we would have thought, that 19-year-old leopard had perfect pads underneath. Her pads were still fine, there was nothing wrong with them. So no, they don't really wear out. It's part of their body. I suppose they might lose a bit of kind of tread on them, or if you want to call it that, and they might wear a little bit, but the more they're kind of using them, the more they're callousing, and the more that they kind of harden up, and so walking over thorns and various other things doesn't hurt them that much. But what is surprising with Hosana is just how much bigger his feet have gotten in the last few weeks. I don't know why I've noticed it a lot more. Tumba has always had the big feet, but Hosana's seemed to have bulked up quite a bit. If you look at his kind of face in relation to his paws, Hosana's not a small leopard now. He's got quite a bulky head already. I was saying his dewlap is starting. But if you look at that front paw has gotten really large. What you can also see though is when you look at a paw from the top and you actually see the pad, is two different things. And so you'll see that he's got quite a big sort of foot structure, but the pad itself is actually fairly small within that foot structure. So that's why in soft sand their feet look bigger than on hard ground, and so his actual pad size is not going to be the size of his foot. Now, Lily, you're asking if there's a direct correlation between his foot size and how big he's going to be. No, not necessarily. Generally, it is the case though. All the leopards that I've seen that have had really large feet have generally been quite big individuals. But I have seen individuals with small feet that are also quite large. So if you go down to the south of the reserve, there's a couple leopards there that, Sand River Male was one of them. His track wasn't massive, but he was quite a big leopard. So it's not always the case, but generally the larger the leopard, the larger their feet. Now when they're young like this, it can be a bit deceiving because every leopard proportionately looks as though it's got big feet. So Tumba, Hosana, they always look like their feet are a little bit bigger than what they are. The reason why I always say Tumba's feet are large is because I've seen Tumba and Tingana's tracks side by side when they walked together the one time in the Mulawati, and there is very just little discernible difference between those two leopards. Now, one is a 12-year-old dominant male, the other one is a sort of year-and-a-half-old young male, and his tracks are still the same size as a fully grown dominant male. And Tingana is not a small male by any stretch of the imagination, and his track is not small. So Tumba's got quite large feet for his age, and that might mean that he's going to be a big leopard. I don't know. He's slowly but surely developing, and I've watched him and I've seen him and Hosana together, and even though he's 6 months younger, he's not too far off Hosana's size. So it'll be interesting to see. Also, the rate of growth is different for each individual. There's also genetics involved as to who's going to be bigger, but normally the bigger the animal, the bigger the feet, and that's how you see it. But when they're young like this, you can't always tell. It's just proportionately sometimes the feet look big. Luke, so you're wondering about the leopard's back legs and whether or not they're used as a spring for jumping. Well, Look, the thing is about their legs is if you look at them, if you look at the back legs, they are very slender and very long. Now, that means that those legs are designed exactly for, like you're saying, they're designed to, one, to launch out and to be able to get speed and to keep them going to chase things. Two, there's obviously a jumping effect that comes from long legs with very big, powerfully defined hip muscles. And so, yes, the back legs are designed for them to be able to spring and to jump. And a leopard can jump incredibly high. There's some amazing videos out there of leopards jumping and catching impalas and various other animals from in midair, where they go at least 3 or 4 times the height of their body into the air and grab things. It's really quite amazing to watch, and that's all from that back leg area. The front paws are all there for power. That's what those are there for. So those will be the initial kind of pull off the ground to be able to run after something, and then also to be able to grip and pull things down and then pull their bodies up into trees. So you'll find that the front area is powerful, very strongly built, and it's almost like a weightlifter, whereas the back section is all more like a sprinter that is thin and narrow and very muscular and defined. So most definitely those back legs play a huge part in a leopard being able to jump and spring. The front legs don't do nearly as much work for that. The front legs are all for the heavy lifting, so to speak, and to be able to pull them up into trees and be able to then pin down prey animals when they're hunting. And you can imagine how powerful these leopards must be. I mean, when he was a little bit younger, he was not very old at all. He was sort of 16 months and was still being able to bring down fully grown male impalas. So it just shows how strong those front legs are, and the ability to leap is also quite amazing. Right, now we're going to carry on with Hosana, because why not? It's just a good way to spend a morning. While we do that, I believe Noel is on the tracks of something rather prickly, and apparently has its little dung to show you.
Don't always see all the time. They usually come out when it's cooler or when it's nighttime, but he has left us a present. It's an old present, but he's definitely left us a present. So you can see it looks like little sausage links. Some of them have broken up, but I'm going to take this one that's already open a little bit and open it some more. And then I want viewers, you tell me what you think. Who left behind this dung and what can you see inside? So you can Twitter it, #SafariLive, or on YouTube chat, and let me know what you think this animal eats, who this animal is, and possibly where he's been going. I would say definitely that tamboti tree that we saw. He loves the bark of the tamboti tree. Definitely. So while we're waiting for those questions to come in, I actually just want to very quickly show you. Here we go with the hooked thorns like we were talking about. So remember we saw the long straight thorns? These are hooked ones. These are very uncomfortable. That will be painful. Sometimes though what you'll find is inside of these areas, inside of something like this, I just don't want to get myself hooked on them. It would be something that I would do. You'll find birds that will nest in there, especially things like waxbills. They build up with tiny little bits of grass and very nicely execute their nest inside of a small little space like that to help keep snakes away. So now this dung that we were looking at just now, this would be what's known as a sign. So this would also be a question on the evaluation that my friend's taking later in the week, would be something like this, and they would ask who has done this, whose dung is this, who was here. And then sometimes if you don't know, you can look around and possibly see maybe where this animal was foraging. I unfortunately can't see now. So Josh is saying maybe Nyala. So Josh, let's take a closer look back again. So we have very sausage-like links. They're going to come out like this, okay? Similar to this. Whereas a Nyala is going to have pellets. And then a Nyala has a very good digestive system. And when you try and break it open, especially when it's as old as this one is, it's going to be hard to break open, and then you're going to see very digested matter in here. What we had in here is not as digested, it's very fibrous. And also there's a little bit of a reddish tinge, which means that there was bark material or root material that was inside of this. That's what the animal's been eating. So I'm going to give you all a few more hints. Tristan gave you a little hint before. A very spiny animal, an animal that's very prickly, an animal that likes to be more at night, a little bit more elusive. It has what's known as aposematic coloration, so warning coloration, black and white. Ah, Amanda, it is. It's a porcupine. So Nunji, it's a porcupine. Well done. Very, very well done. I'm impressed. Let's see if we can find some tracks of this porcupine as we carry on our way. But before we find those tracks, Herbie pointed out earlier, so it's springtime. and a lot of the trees are getting their leaves back. We've got the silver cluster leaf is busy getting its leaves back. This would be very good to eat if you have toothache. I've seen elephants eat this. Remember elephants that, like we saw yesterday, have molars that pop up. They get 6 or 7 sets. They don't pop up from bottom to top like ours, but they rotate from back to front, and they'll chew on this. It's also good if you have a bad tummy ache. Chew on the leaves and swallow the juices. It does not taste nice at all, unfortunately. So because this porcupine was here quite a while ago, it's going to be interesting if we can find tracks, but notice that we're walking up a game path. So these game paths are what the animals make, and then we use them and follow them. Oh, ooh, we've got another special nocturnal one here. We've got a really beautiful track. So if you look, very, very round toe on the side. It's moving this way. There's my little arrow up. Very, very round toe on the side. Round toe on the side. There's your other 2 toes. Tiny little marks for claws. And then what you can see is 2 lobes. The back actually has a pad at the back that looks like this, with a tiny little 3rd lobe in there, but it's not a true 3rd lobe. Also comes out at night, eats millipedes. This is from a civet, from a fungue. This little civet also traveling up. This to me is not fresh, I would say maybe 2 nights ago. But again, a very good question for track and sign. Ooh, James is asking, are there any species that I haven't managed to see in the Sabi sands? James, I've been really lucky in my career. I've seen many, many things. My time in the sands has been brief compared to other places, but no, I've been lucky. I've seen pangolin. You know what, to be fair, I haven't seen an aardvark in the sands. I've seen an aardvark, but not here in the sands, so I'd like to see that, and I haven't seen a serval in the sands. So that would be 2 that I would be looking for, and also really great tracks, if we can find those tracks along here. Ooh, here we go. Here's what an antelope species would give for dung. So here's our little pellets. It actually looks like a young kudu. And when you break them open, very, very hard on the outside, when you break them open, you can see that very fine matter that's inside. Proper digestion. Because remember, kudu, a nyala, they have 4 chambers to the stomach, so they chew, bring it back up like a cow. Chew it again, and then comes out so they can get as much nutrients out as possible. Very, very different from that fibrous material that we saw inside of the porcupine dung. All right, let's see what else we can find you. Tracks, signs, trees, birds, maybe an elephant if we're lucky. Definitely see some signs, some older signs of elephants. No fresh tracks, no fresh signs at the moment. We're going to head back up to Kenya, where it's a little bit harder to track with that black cotton soil. And Taylor is trying to find her lions. Taylor, good luck.
Right, we just actually passed the marshy bit. Our lionesses were not laying about there at all. I don't know where they are. Maybe they've moved a little bit further towards Little Governors. We will check though. It's very quiet.
It's flooding everywhere.
Flooding! I keep getting southing and I'm like, what is that? So, a question from Michael. You're wondering if flooding is ever an issue in the Mara. Well, that's why a lot of the camps closed down, is because of the rains. Not necessarily like flooding that I've seen. I haven't been here for long enough. I haven't really been here for the big rains, so I'm just going to give you an educated guess, I suppose. But this area does become quite waterlogged, so you know, it might not be that, you know, you're 6 foot underwater, but there's just so much water around that you can get bogged down quite easily, and there's nowhere to really drive. Yeah, even the main roads become a problem. They become very slippery and exceptionally wet. There's lots of luggers, so it fills up. So, and in these sort of marshy areas, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I would imagine the flash flooding, especially in like the Talak River and things like that. I'm just going to duck. There's some nice elephants. Would be a problem. I wouldn't like to be in any of the river lines. when some big rain falls upon you, because I think you get yourself into a bit of trouble. But we have got a big herd of elephants just moving through the marsh now. They're all still wet from the rain, trying to dry off. Maybe some of them have had a little bit of a mud bath, but there's a couple of tiny little elephants. Look how small that one is. Not wobbly on its feet, though, so we know it's not a few days old. Probably a couple of weeks old, but very, very small. Your ears need to be ironed out. They look like they've been folded and sort of back and flattened. And now you're using the luxury facilities, little elephant. Oh, that's very, very precious. But there are, how many? 1, 2 little ellies in this herd. About the same age. Isn't that interesting? Look at their ears. All flopped over like that. I've never really noticed that before with little elephants. Just trying to nibble. Let's see how well you can use your trunk. Have you been practicing? Have you been training those muscles? Actually, you quite good. There we go, now trying to use its foot. Well done, little elephant. That's impressive. I mean, this guy's probably, this one maybe a little bit older than the other, maybe about a month old. And that's incredible skill. Look at that. I suppose it just depends on individual to individual. Some learn quicker than others. Some take a little bit longer, to pick up certain things. And we know it takes them quite a long time. It takes them over a year to fully gain the use of their trunks. That elephant's doing very, very well. It's obviously been watching the adults and other siblings. Now, Izzy, you said that you love the baby elephants. They are so precious, especially when they get excited like that. Oh, what's happened? Yeah, they've just all of a sudden formed a protective circle around that little one. They all came charging in, making sure that that little one is safe and in amongst the others. It looks like it's just trying to suckle, though. I'm not sure what would have startled it. There is one cow, though, that's very panicky. It's actually quite a youngster, too. All talking to one another. There's very soft rumblings going on. Everyone's trying to help that young Ellie calf. It's so young it's trying to stand on its tippy toes. But Mom's obliging. Mom will stand still. She's actually trying to guide it as well. Just trying to guide it to the right mammary gland there. You can't keep all 4 feet on the ground, can you? I wonder what's happened there. Maybe a wind swirled and they picked up the scent of a predator or something along those lines, but that younger girls panic quite a bit. It's amazing to see when they do that, how they all just come together. And, I mean, to us, I didn't know what was going on until they ran in that direction. There's another old girl. Big, big, big cow. Ah. Now, Rebecca, you're wondering if it could have been a snake that scared the baby. Possibly. I mean, essentially it could have been a python curled up somewhere around there. It's just a bit difficult to see to actually confirm that. Now they've settled down completely. I mean, elephant's sense of smell is super sensitive, so I would think that maybe it was just the wind had swirled and the scent of a lion or a leopard or something. Maybe even, lion dung on the ground. That would be enough to just send the elephants panicking a little bit. And it is a very, very young little calf, so they will be particularly protective over it. But now, all seems well. There we go. Look how they're helping it. Just sort of standing with it, saying everything's going to be okay. No, it's very exciting again. Now, Proud Cat Mama, you say you love hearing the elephants trumpeting. Well, a trumpet is not really a nice sound. Normally it's when elephants are distressed that they make that. Obviously you get some youngsters when they're playing and they're still learning how to make all the different sounds. They will tend to trumpet a bit, but it's typically not a good sound. When you hear them rumbling like that, that's just general communication. I suppose it would be like you and I having a conversation with one another. I'm just checking to see if I can see anything. No. It's very quiet out here. I mean, there actually aren't even many cars at all. Now, Brian, great question from you with regards to relations amongst this herd, and you're wondering if they could all be related to one another. Maybe, there could be one big cow here who's given birth to a couple of others, and it's her daughters that are moving around with her, and then her daughter's offspring, quite possibly. Elephants are typically the females within a herd. You'll find that there will be linkages to the sort of the various elephants. So I suppose it just depends, though. This isn't a big group, quite a small herd of Ellies. Maybe there'll be one or two females that are unrelated that are together with all their offspring. That's the most likely case. But sometimes you'll just see mom with 3 or 4 generations or 5 or 6 generations of offspring, like I said, and then their daughters too. But they're moving behind the car now. Let's keep going. I just heard some clashing, like tusks. Let's go up a bit further towards the tree line. I wonder where our lions are. They're normally always here. Not today though. Maybe they're just laying in some of these pockets. I did hear some clashing though. I don't know if it's maybe from buffalo or if there's 2 Ellie bulls that are sparring with one another. But we'll keep searching around the tree lines. Maybe we'll get lucky with a leopard or a lion. Tristan, however, has had some luck, and he is still with Hosana.
I am indeed. He's very sleepy and he's not really doing much, but there's not really much else going on. And so I thought, well, might as well spend time with the leopard. You never know. That's the nice thing about leopards, is you never know what's going to happen. Also, if you have a look now, the shade that I was talking about is slowly but surely creeping quickly towards those feet. I suppose not slowly and surely and quickly. It can't be both, but it is quickly going towards him. So the shade when we first arrived was about 2 meters to the right on the other side of that fallen over or broken tree, and you can see now it's already come all the way towards him. So I think if we just sit here for long enough, the sun is going to start coming out and hitting him, and when the sun hits him, then I think we're going to see him maybe get up and move, and hopefully move in a different direction. Now you might be asking why I've changed where I've positioned, because it's not the better view, but there are a number of other vehicles here, and just given the way he's lying, it's difficult for anybody else to see nicely but where we were. So I'm just being polite and allowing some of the other people that have come out here and don't get as many chances to see leopards as what we do, to get a chance to see clearly and to be able to see in the best gap that there is. And anyway, it's not too bad a view. If he does sit up, we will be able to see him nicely anyway. Chitty Chatty Meg, no. Hosana's a little bit young to be a father. I mean, potentially he might be producing sperm to be able to fertilize an egg. That I'm not 100% sure of, but generally, no. I mean, he is very young still. He's not even reached 2 years old yet. And even young males that mate would be about 2.5, 3. I mean, that's the earliest I've seen males mating. So he's still a little on the young side. Like I say, I don't think he's producing enough sperm yet to be able to actually fertilize an egg. Also, at the end of the day, females won't mate with him. So Tundi, Shadow, any of the females in this area know that he's a young male. They know that there's more dominant males out here, and it's just a risk to mate with him and have cubs with him, because he's not strong enough to defend a territory yet, and he's not actively marking. So he won't be mating yet. I think it will be still some time until he starts mating, probably I would say a year and a half, and until you actually see him getting up into any mating sort of schedule. There's of course always outliers, and you never know. Maybe Hosana's a little game player and he can get involved early. Who knows? Maybe he's taken a leaf out of Taylor's gerbil book and is going to be one of those that's going to get involved a little earlier in age. Of course, it also depends on the dominant males. If you get a situation where there's a few dominant males that disappear in the form of, let's say, Tingana decides to move out and is no longer in this area, then you might get a situation where he might start mating a lot earlier. If you look down in the south of the reserve, there's a male called the White Dam male. Now, I know James, who watches the show regularly, absolutely loves the White Dam male, and he's mating at a very young age. I mean, he's about 3 years old and he's mating. So we're in the company of a dominant male. So it's not impossible that Hosana could be mating fairly soon, but highly unlikely and highly improbable, should we say. James, yeah, it's fairly typical for a male of his age to start seeing a dewlap. I mean, it's not always the case, and obviously dewlaps are genetic. If we look at two different leopards in the form of Anderson and Tingana, you'll notice that Anderson has a very small dewlap in comparison to Tingana's. Tingana's dewlap kind of comes from his throat down all the way to his chest, whereas Anderson doesn't quite have that dewlap. Even though Anderson is a fully grown dominant individual that's got, territory and all of that kind of thing, he just doesn't have the same size dewlap. So there's a fair amount of genetic to it, and some males will end up with bigger dewlaps than others. If you look at Mbavala down in the south of the Sabi Sands, he's got a massive dewlap as well, and it makes him more imposing. So Hosana might just be one of those individuals that is going to end up with a really big dewlap. If you look at him in comparison to Tumba doesn't even have anywhere close to that skin hanging down yet at all, and so it's going to be interesting to see if Tumba also develops it early or if it's later. But I suppose it is a little early for him. It's not something that you see all that often with a sort of 2-year-old male. Generally they don't have too much of a dewlap developing, but maybe he's going to be a big individual and take after his dad like Tingana and have a really big, massive fold of skin underneath his neck. Either way, he's starting to become more and more impressive. I mean, that dewlap is only going to add to his appearance and add to his size and his kind of overall aura that he'll have about him. And so I'm pretty sure we're going to get to a situation where he will eventually look really quite threatening and dominant. And when that does happen, I'm pretty sure Tingana is going to take exception. My interest in Tingana is big at the moment, and the reason why is I feel like Tingana is being pushed a lot harder than we've seen him being pushed ever before. There's definitely a shift and a sway in what's going on, because it's the first time I've ever heard of Tingana kind of having an altercation on a kill and the other male still being in that area the next morning. Normally Tingana is very good at evicting and getting people out, and when he had that little altercation with Quarantine, the next morning Quarantine was still in that same area and Tingana was the one that had moved off. And I wonder if maybe there's just a little shift. Tingana is starting to age a little bit, and Quarantine obviously is a younger, fitter individual. Maybe it's just starting to push him a little bit, and I wonder how this is all going to play out and whether we're going to start seeing more and more and more of Quarantine pushing westly towards Chitwa and maybe even the western side of Djuma. It's going to be super interesting. And then of course you've got these two youngsters in the form of Tumba and Hosana that are slowly but surely looking around, and maybe you're going to find a situation that Hosana and Tumba are both perfectly placed and perfectly aged to be around just as Tingana starts to become an old male. And if Tingana's not careful and doesn't push them out now, he's going to have a situation where he's going to have to try and deal with these two when they're fit 3-4-year-old males, and he's going to be on the better part of 14 at that stage. It's going to be very tough for him to keep these boys in line and keep them away. So I think it's going to be an interesting next year that we're going to see, and I have a funny feeling that a change in guard is going to take place within the next year, and I think Tingana is going to become a lot more like Mvula and become a lot more nomadic, and we're going to see a lot more of Quarantine. That's my personal opinion. Whether I'm right is completely irrelevant and completely kind of up for debate, but that's just what I think is going to happen. I don't think Anderson wants to push this way too much. We've seen Djuma rather kind of inserting himself in that northern Simamili Arathusa area, and I think he's squeezing Tingana from that side. But what makes me interested is what's squeezing Djuma to go that way. What came from Buffelshoek that is causing Djuma to start pushing into Arathusa? Is it because there was females there that he followed? Maybe Nchila brought him from Buffelshoek and he saw an area and wanted to spend time there? Or is there another male that we just don't know about that's shy and skittish in the north of Buffelshoek that is starting to push these guys all south and changing the dynamic that we have with our male leopards? It's an interesting topic and one that we're only going to know the answer to as things play out, but I certainly think that Quarantine is going to start pushing further west again and coming towards Chitwa. I think that's a given. He already is starting to making inroads into this area and starting to kind of be seen on Chitwa a lot more than what he was, and I think he's going to start pushing back a little bit, but hopefully he doesn't push too far, and that leaves a gap for Hosana to insert himself here on the southern section of Djuma, which would be quite nice. The thing is also is that by the time he reaches fully grown and a potentially capable age of mating, let's say 4 years old if he starts to mate for the first time, or 3.5, theoretically by then Thandi and Shadow should be on their last litter. I highly doubt they'll have any more litters after they reach 14 years old. And so the problem of him mating with his sisters will probably not be relevant. Hopefully, you know, somebody like in Chile or something like that moves into the area, and then there's a little bit more of a diverse sort of bloodline. But going to be interesting nonetheless. Like I say, I'm super keen to see how this all plays out over the next few months and years, and we see how our young boys develop and become dominant individuals. The only thing that I can wish for with all of this is if they don't spend time on Djuma, is that wherever Hosana and Tumba end up, it's areas that are well kind of populated with guides, and that there can be some sort of photographic evidence and following of these guys as we can watch their story unfold from afar if they don't stay in this area. Right, now I believe Herbie and Noel have teamed up together and are still on their walk, and I believe they've got a little surprise, so let's jump across to them. I shudder to think what they're up to, but let's go and see what's going on.
Happy birthday, Tristan! Herbie has made you some gifts. That is a ring, it is a birthday ring, and these are the birthday handcuffs. We haven't quite decided what we're handcuffing you for, but there you go. We'll give them to you when we get back. Herbie, wonderful work. Made from the silver cluster leaf that we talked about earlier. Put those in my pockets. Okay, and then we have poo. The bushwalk's about a lot of poo. So we've got two kinds of poo here. One I can touch, this one, and one I will not touch. This one here is from a carnivore. This one here is from a tiny, tiny little herbivore. So we were talking about consistency with dung. So we had the very fibrous porcupine dung, and then we opened up the hard outside, but sort of greeny and very digested inside of that young kudu. And then this is from a scrub hare. So scrub hares do something called coprophagy, which is actually refection, but we'll just go with coprophagy for now, where they have their dung and then they eat it again so that they get as much moisture and nutrients out of it as possible. So it makes it fine like sawdust. Okay, and you'll usually find them in little groups of threes. There's lots of scrub hare dung all around here. The scrub hare obviously comes here often, and you can see where it's been eating the grass stalks. Then this one here, this is from hyena. So white because of the calcium from the bones that hyenas chew on. When it first comes out, it's sort of a bright limey green, and then it turns white like that. Now things like tortoises and zebra and millipedes will come and eat this dung because of the calcium, to ingest the calcium for their own body's goodness. So for them, there's no problems. For us, if I were to touch and handle this, I'm going to get worms, and I really don't feel like dealing with worms, so we're going to leave that alone. Now normally, when you find dung like this, you'll also find a blade of grass that has an anal pasting on it. So this is marking of territory with spotted hyena. We don't have brown hyena here, just spotties. Now what they do is they'll find something like this blade of grass, they'll go poo, then they find this blade of grass and they'll step over it, then they invert their anal sac and they leave a pasting. Just one mark, not two like the brown hyena. Now I checked very carefully that was not the stock, because if you get that on you, you smell like hyena bum for the rest of the day, and I really don't feel like smelling like that. So I'm not seeing it, so it's possible that blade of grass got removed. Ooh, we've got some really fresh, what looks like impala dung. Not as fresh as I thought, sorry, but there's just a little bit of moisture in there. Impalas will go in a midden, and sometimes they'll just go like this. And again, that very fibrous green in the middle. This place is full up of really wonderful. I actually don't think this is impala. I think I got this wrong. I think this might be diker. Excuse me, I'm going with diker now. But we'll see. What do you guys think? You think that's impala? You think it's diker? I'm going to go with diker. Alright, we're going to carry on looking for tracks and signs like we've been doing, making sure that my friend is prepped for Thursday. We'll see if Herbie can make any more gifts for Tristan. Those were pretty great. And then we're going to carry on, and hopefully we get something big and hairy, and if not, oh, it's been a wonderful morning. We're in the sun, we're in the bush. Skylar, you are asking about my walking stick. I'm actually very proud of this walking stick. This was a walking stick that was made for me by my old tracker from years and years and years ago. This is a warthog tusk. It's a warthog tusk that we found on Game Drive. We were busy following leopard. My tracker said, stop, stop, stop. I stopped. He jumps down. He picks these up. We carry on with our leopard. And a week later, he came back from his leave, and this is what he had brought me. So it is a very big walking stick compared to a lot of what my friends have, but it's very precious and very dear to me, and I don't really go on many walks without it, unless of course I'm leading, and then like Herbie I would have my rifle with me, but for us it's just my stick. So we're going to carry on, and we're going to send you back over to Tristan, I believe, if I didn't mishear Megs there. Must enjoy. We'll see you again.
You may have heard me just whispering my rap, trying to practice and remember the lyrics. But look what we've got. We had a really cool reunion. It happened so quickly, though. Mom and Dad Jackal came home, obviously, from a night out searching for dinner. And there were some young pups there, 3 of them, roaming around at the moment. It was quite cool to see that greeting. A very typical dog greeting, though. They were acting, obviously, of course, a little bit submissive, so ears were flat and they were sort of slouched a bit. And then once the adults had obviously said, woo, we're so happy to see you, they were jumping around like as well. Puppies get excited when you go to the shop and come back. But it's very cool. And there's zebra, impala, there's all sorts of things at the back, which is quite cool. See the little one just rolling around. You can see they're slightly still mottled. They almost got their adult colors, though. You might find that they're about almost 6 months old. I think somewhere around there, maybe between 4 and 6 months old. And they'll be going off on their own soon. They don't look like they're going to be hanging around with the adults for too much longer. It's amazing how quickly they grow up and are able to look after themselves. But what a beautiful scene. Because we've been seeing lots and lots of young jackal pups, so it's nice to see slightly older ones, yeah, having a little play as well now. Playing is so important with strengthening the bond and of course honing in on those hunting skills. They all go running away. Impala just staring at them, just keeping an eye out, because jackals will take young impala lambs. The zebra foal, a little bit too big for a jackal, so they wouldn't mind them too much. But you have to, of course, be careful. Davy, I've actually got nervous now. Do you know that? No, I don't know if I'm ready. I'm trying to remember the lyrics and I'm scared I'm going to mess it up. Do you think so? I have to stretch first. Get those out. Okay, but who's in Final Control? Final Control has to turn our ambience up, because otherwise you're not going to be able to hear Davy beatboxing. I'm really nervous, which is ridiculous. I mean, isn't that stupid that I do the most ridiculous things on a regular basis, but now I'm nervous to do a rap for Tristan. Okay, wait, I have to just check the lyrics one more time. Just one more time. Because I've made them up this morning and I'm worried I'm going to make them nervous. Tristan, I hope you appreciate this, because okay, you're not going to read it. You can't see what they say, but there's the rap is there. And I do know the words off by heart. There's just one part that I keep messing up. Okay. Okay. Now I'm nervous. Okay, Tristan, I'm sorry I couldn't dress up, like I said, in the middle of the Mara, but Maurice and I are going to do our best. Beats by Davy.
Here we go.
I'm so nervous. It's like I'm doing my interview drive again. My heart is sitting in my stomach. It's like I'm going on my first date. That's how I feel right now. Okay. Tristan, it's your birthday. Hip hop, hey, 31 today. I hope they make you a cake and sing. Maybe even dress you up in some bling bling. I never met a man with such luck, tracking big cats in the sand and the mud. So here's to the man of the hour, the Leopard King. Tristan, go take a shower. Oh. There we go. There's my rap for Tristan. Happy birthday! I hope you have the best day ever, and I hope 31 was as good as your 30th. Maybe even better, because you're spending it with us. Woo! So nervous. Yeah, so glad that's over. I don't like doing things like that. I don't even know if I was looking at the camera. Was I looking at the camera? And I don't know what I was doing to Maurice. Woo! Thanks, Maurice, for being there for the support. Darby, nice work, yo. Okay, right, we're going to keep driving around. We're not having luck with the cats today, but anyways, it's just one of those things. I'm going to send you to sunny South Africa with a birthday boy, and I'm sure, or I hope he's still got his crown on.
I do still have Hosana. He just chased a scrub here, and he's now kind of looking as though he might come back onto our side, or he's going to flop down in the shade. He got too hot, like I said he would, and he decided to move. It was quite funny watching him, because he kind of got into this point where it was very hot, and I can't deal with this, and so he decided to chase a scrub here for a bit, and then eventually got to a point where he's now sitting down. But I'm going to go forward because there are guys behind. So sorry, Sens. Let me just go forward a little bit. Hopefully our signal will stay and will not break up too much. I'm just going to actually go through. You know what, Sens? Let's go up onto the other side. It's going to be better. So I'm going to just go through, and we're going to have better signal and everything, so that we seem really weird that I'm going quite far. Right, so there we go. Sorry guys, I just had to quickly cross the Mulawati, and that's lost reception for a bit, but we're back, and Hosana's straight across from us, so it actually works out a little bit better from where we are. We get a nice view of him as he's sitting in the shade watching, and it looks like he's looking north towards us, and so I think we're going to have Hosana at Twin Dams for the afternoon. That's what I think anyway. Hopefully that's going to be the case. Whether or not it is, well, it will remain to be seen, but he is looking northwards, which is fantastic news, and here he comes. He's coming straight towards us, which is going to be great. Hopefully he's going to cross into the Mulawati and then decide to come and rest at Twin Dams. That's what I'm hoping. Our young man has been absent from Twin Dams for quite some time, so it would be nice to see him coming back, and you see he's kind of stalking along. Isn't he looking beautiful? Hello boy, are you going to lie down right there and pose for everybody that's going to drive along the main road today? Yes, you are. He's sitting right on the verge of the road, absolutely perfectly poised, and I'm sure many a person that comes to the Sabi Sands today, if they're going to Chitwa or in Koro or Cheetah Plains, is going to be spoilt if they come past now, because they're going to see a leopard before they even get to a lodge, posing as properly as you could ever ask for. It is really quite something to see him up there. Look how regal he's looking, and look how his shoulders have filled out. He's getting really looking quite big. Evernagle, I think that was the name. Sorry if I got that wrong, but you want to know, does Hosana have friends? Yes, he has millions of friends around the world in the form of all of you, and as well as us here at Safari Live. We absolutely love Hosana. Whether he loves us, I don't know, but we're going to force our friendship on him. But in terms of actually in the wild, no, he doesn't really have friends. He's a leopard, and leopards unfortunately are solitary cats, and that's just how life goes. He might join up with other leopards at times, but it's generally over food items, or if he's picked up the scent of them and he's kind of investigating and coming and seeing what's going on. But it's not like he has friends that he hangs around with, unfortunately. He's a individual that spends all of his time really on his lonesome, other than if maybe a female comes past and he kind of joins up with Tundi or Shadow to see what they're up to, or sometimes even with Tumba and Tingana if he feels like it. But it's generally not that they're actually friends. It's more just a food or an area specific thing that they bump into one another. But I would like to think we're all his friends, and that's why he kind of spends a lot of time with us on Djuma. Of course, that's probably an absolute nonsense, but I'll just take it anyway, and like I say, that's what I'm going to go with. But he's definitely looking northwards. I'm hoping that he is going to come. I'm hoping he's not going to get into this Mulawati and just go south, back down into Little Gari like it looks like he might be. He's spotted something. You see, he's kind of seen something now, and now he's going southwards again. I don't know if maybe something's wallowing behind us at Baboon Pan that he's spotted from up there, or he's just going to use the cover to come down into the Mulawati itself. We're just going to have to see and have a little look. But I think that maybe potentially he's going to pop out somewhere in the Mulawati drainage. Now, whether or not he's going to come through and northwards is anyone's guess. So these guys will go down into the drainage itself, and they'll be able to tell us what he actually gets up to. But I think he might eventually come north. Now I'm just giggling because Hosana's gone there in one of the other vehicles, which is an older model of the cruisers, which still has the locks on the wheels that you have to get out and turn, hasn't turned them, and they've gotten a little stuck in the Mulawati, which is not ideal for them. So we're going to have a situation where they might have to get out the car to actually get themselves out. But let's see where Hosana goes. Unfortunately, there's no visual of him at the moment. Hopefully he's going to come trotting north, and if he comes north, then we don't have to worry about seeing him this afternoon. But while we wait for him to come out and to get into this area, let's go across to Noel, who's still taking a beautiful stroll in the morning sunshine.
I am taking a beautiful stroll. I've actually just heard some oxpeckers. We found some wildebeest tracks heading down towards the dam. We're making our way back there. But I just wanted to show you all this large tree. It's knobthorn here. Yesterday evening we had a beautiful vulture. And the vulture was sitting up in a dead tree. But something that vultures love to do is they love to make nests inside of knobthorn trees. Well, inside of, at the top of. And I've actually seen billed buffalo weavers make their nest just under the top of that tree, that vulture's nest as well. With this knobthorn tree, elephants love knobthorn trees, big ones, small ones. So when your elephant population is very high, you're going to get less knobthorn trees, which means less places for vultures to nest. So there's a direct knock-on effect with species in that regard. For us, for a knobthorn tree, look, I've heard little bits here and little bits there, but in general, it's good for firewood. I've heard that it can help if you make a little powder out of the knobs and you put it here by your nose. It can help stop nosebleeds, but not too much more. It is something that I'm going to have to investigate and look at. So the area that we're walking through, oh, there's some impala, lovely. That's probably why I heard the oxpeckers. So we've got a nice herd of impala, probably already been down for a drink. They've seen us, they've snorted, they're moving off, but they're not, and it's actually quite a big herd. They're all snorting now. The wind is pushing our scent away, but obviously I'm talking and walking. Just the sound of our footsteps is enough. And they are deciding that we're not something that's going to eat them, but definitely something that they want to move away from. So notice that a lot of the females that are moving there in front, and then behind you've got the males. You can hear those oxpeckers again. Let's see if they do it. Yeah, the oxpeckers have stopped, unfortunately, but I do hear a bit of the snorting. It's the zzz sound. I don't have the bird calls with me, unfortunately. I'll try to remember tomorrow to bring some bird calls. But that oxpecker sound is something that's very, very, very important to listen to when you're walking in the bush. It's going to warn you possibly about impala, possibly about kudu, but about buffalo, about rhino, not so much about elephants. Rossley, you're asking what are the main differences between male and female antelope tracks? Super interesting question. So I know yesterday I said female waterbuck, and then today the impala that I pointed out, I said male. Look, for that, there's not a huge amount of difference. Normally you would just say waterbuck, you would just say impala. The reason why I said male had to do with the fact that it was just one that was there and the size of it. But look, I am by no means a master tracker. There's several guys that I work with who could come through and be like, Noelle, you're a complete idiot. It's a female. But in general, you can't really tell. With wildebeest, a male's track is much, much larger than a female's, and obviously you're working with adults. In general, it's just a size thing, but it's by no means 100%. Great question. All right, now I said earlier I prefer walking through the bush a bit, but not on the rick to our south. And then to our north here, it's not as thick, but we are heading to the dam. I can hear those oxpeckers again, possibly some more antelope that's in there. And instead of walking straight through the thickness, I want to head just a little bit in the open and then head through to the dam. So Hallie, you're wondering what's my favorite bird? I really love a battler. When I was in Zambia just more, Hallie, just when I was in Zambia just now, I saw Pell's fishing owl for the third time only in my whole career, and that's a fabulous, fabulous bird. Not something we see very often at all. But you know, we're coming into summer, so a lot of the bee eaters are here. The carmines are one of my favorite. I can't actually, I have too many favorites. But yeah, battler is always good, always good. Okay, we're not far from the dam now. We are trying to find some honey badger tracks that we saw earlier. Very, very interesting honey badger tracks. We're not picking them up at the moment. They're not super fresh, but that's definitely something we're after. And then I'm hoping, because it's nice and warm now, I would guesstimate it's going to be at least 32 degrees, if not 35 degrees today. It's going to be nice and hot. That a lot of the... Currently it's 23 and 74, but it's definitely going to get much warmer than that. Because it's much warmer, there's going to be a lot more drinking down by the water hole. So let's meander down that way, and if we find those honey badger tracks, we will definitely show you. There's impala tracks still here. Nothing new, nothing that we haven't seen yet this morning. Oh, but there is an interesting tree coming up. A very interesting tree. Alright, so this tree, a lot of people know it as the toilet paper tree. This is a weeping wattle, Peltiforum africanum. This, you take a branch, a thick branch like this, when someone has passed away in your family, someone very, very close to you, and you bring it to Angama, to traditional healer. He makes a drink out of it, and you drink it, and it washes your grief away. Very important tree. Very, very soft leaves, and we can actually see nicely. We've been talking about auxiliary buds. Check that auxiliary bud there. Just there at the tip of my finger. So anything growing off of that is the leaf. So this whole thing is the leaf. And these are little leaflets. Very interesting. Okay, carry on towards the dam. We are going to head back to Tristan. He's got his last look of Hosana. So you must enjoy your birthday leopard, Tristan. And viewers, enjoy Tristan's birthday leopard. We'll see you shortly.
Well, unfortunately, I think we're not going to find any more sign of Hosana. He's crossed south with that vehicle getting stuck. The guys had to try and get the car out. We had one last glimpse, but he went south into Little Gari, and he's kind of heading in a southeasterly direction, so he might come outside at some point this afternoon, but for now it's going to be that he's just heading deeper and we can't really see anything. So I think I'm going to leave it there and let the guys carry on, and hopefully the lack of vehicles will mean that he'll come up this way. The problem is there is water right here, so I don't know if he's going to drink and then come to our side or what the story is going to be. I pretty much think that it's going to be a situation where he's probably in all likelihood just going to lie down somewhere in the shade here, and maybe, just maybe, he comes to Twin Dams at some stage today, but who knows. Either way, it was nice to see him and really good to have him on camera. So let me get out of the area though. There we go. We've turned, and I'm sure at some point he's going to come. He was looking this direction and he was kind of moving this way all the time. Something distracted him after the guys got stuck, and somebody saw that he kind of was sort of like a squirrel or something, and he ran after that, and then with the car being stuck, it just pushed him a little further south than what I was hoping for, but that's okay. And like I said, he's not a very unrelaxed leopard, and so seeing people on the ground is not really something that he's going to stress about too much. Sky, you're wondering how we all learn to maintain and repair our vehicles. Well, Sky, I think it's a thing out of necessity for a lot of the time. I mean, obviously we don't do that much maintenance on these vehicles, nor do we repair them that much ourselves. Opa, who's our mechanic, is an absolute champion, and he looks after us so well and really helps us with our vehicles and makes sure that our vehicles are working, and if we have serious problems, fixes them for us. So I think from that point of view, a lot of our maintenance work is really what Opa does, and we don't actually have to have a situation where we do too much. That, and then the other side of it is that sometimes things happen in the bush, and so you've got to learn very quickly how to be able to kind of cope with that and deal with that, and so you learn as time goes on with doing things like steering rods or struts or side arms or bushes, those kind of things, all, you know, little things that do happen, and you learn very quickly how to fix them. So it's more just out of necessity because you get stuck somewhere that you have to kind of make a plan and fix it and get it yourself home. And so, you know, and also Opa is very good. If you want to know anything, you go and ask him and he'll teach you, you know, how to do things. So he's a very good guy to have around. Now, because Hosana's gone kind of southwards, I think I'm going to head back northwards and slowly back home. It's going to take me a while to get home. I'm just going to bumble and meander. I might go into the Mulawati just because it's pretty in there and it's shady, and it's because it's so hot, you never know. Maybe there's some ellies around that side. I haven't yet driven the Mulawati, and I know a lot of the elephant tracks came in this direction, so worth just checking around, and maybe we get lucky with something in this particular section. What do you think, Sense? What's our next route home? So Senzo is just trying to explain to me that I need to get into my birthday outfit that the whole team has given me today, which should be quite entertaining. At least I got something from pretty much everyone. So I've got the crown. I've got the crown from Cursed. Jerry's given me an item. Well, Jerry actually gave me a couple, which was the whole FC crew that I have to wear on my birthday now. I've been putting it off because I felt like if I wore it in a leopard sighting, one, I might have scared a leopard away. Two, everyone probably would have died with laughter. So what I'm going to do is I'll do it once, make it into my kind of party outfit, and then I'll do the rest of the drive on the way home in my party outfit. Now, there are some kudu that are in the distance in the shade. They're going to be a little tough to see, but we'll try our very best. Maybe Sens can get in there. There's a few bushes in the way, but you can see it's hot when animals are already in shade like that at, you know, 8:15 in the morning. It seems as though it's a fair time for animals to try and get into some sort of shade and to try and kind of hide away from this baking sun that is coming down. But these guys, you can see, are all ears. They're watching us carefully. Kudu generally are quite alert. As soon as they hear a vehicle, they'll often look around just to make sure that nothing's lurking and there's no leopard that we're sitting with that they are going to potentially be caught unawares with. So often find them kind of in groups like that, and then they'll stare at you with those big ears out to be able to hear you. Now, I don't know if you can hear in the background, there's a buzzing sound. Maybe, I don't know. Megs, can you hear it? So it's like a very high-pitched sound that's coming through. So that is our cicadas, and the first ones that I've heard of the summer months. They seem to be out in full force this morning, and I can hear them calling, and that's all that is them actually rubbing on a resonating organ that they have in their abdomen. So it's not actually a vocal cord sound. That is all basically them beating a drum that they have on their body. So it's called stridulation, and they rub their legs across this membrane that is over this hollow cavity within their abdomen, and that acts just like a drum. And so it's just thousands of little leg taps basically that's causing that sound, and that's them communicating to each other in order to start the mating process. So we'll start to hear this more and more. The more air the hotter we get, the more water we get, the more the cicadas go, and it's one of my favorite summer sounds. I know it's very high pitched and I know it's irritating, but it just kind of reminds you of being out in these wilderness areas in the summer, and obviously summer is my favorite time of the year, so that's a good sound to hear. Right, and we're going to leave our kudus and impalas to themselves, let them enjoy the shade, and let our stridulating cicada enjoy its noise that it's making, and we're going to carry on towards the Mulawati drainage to go and see what's going on there. Right, now I believe Taylor and Dave lovely rap, which I'll have to listen to a little bit later because I have being on the vehicle, but I'm sure the two rappers who are going to probably be famous with their hit would love to kind of catch up with you guys and see what they've been up to over the last bit.
But I know you're just going to laugh at me and tease me, and I tried so hard. No, I'm only joking. So we just had a really interesting encounter with 12 lovely ladies from all around the world, and it was quite funny because they were all very excited and they was, safari love, woo! Literally that's what was going on, and I was a bit taken off guard by it, sort of like, oh my goodness. Anyways, they were always the best group to take on safari. It was actually all women's groups. They were my favorite. And anyway, then they were like, please make a show about us, the 12 wild women. They were celebrating one of their friends' 50th, which was pretty cool. And then they said, can we take pictures with you? So we're like, yeah, sure, no problem. They come in staying next to the car, and this one woman, it's my quote of the day, or my highlight, was she comes up to me and she has one picture, and then she goes, no, we need to do another one. Let me unzip my shirt so I look sexier. I then promptly said, she was wearing all camo, I said, no one's going to even know it's you in the picture. I don't think she got it though, she was blended in. It was quite funny. Anyways, they're going to have a great time, and it's actually one of our friends, James, not James Henry, James from And Beyond. He's one of the guides of the group. Good luck, James. He's fantastic because he always gives us updates of sightings. He's just come back from leave, so that's quite nice. We'll start working together again and helping each other out with sightings. Now, there was a question from Philip about who's the Marshmallow King at the moment. Even though I have it in my car, it's not mine. Jamie put it here before she went on leave. So Jamie is still the Marshmallow. She's the queen. I almost took it from her. Was it yesterday? No, the day before yesterday. Goodness, time flies. The day before yesterday. So I didn't though. I'm quite proud of myself for not getting stuck. In fact, when you all watch that wave of white water hit the hood of the car and start coming over. And then there was something else I was supposed to tell you. Oh, no, Tristan, you said that you reckon we're going to become famous because of our rap. I highly doubt it. Can you imagine? Tristan, I cannot sing very well. I know a lot of you don't like my singing. I sing on purpose to annoy you. I do it strategically. The more you tell me that you don't like me to do something, the more I'm going to do it. But yes, no, raps don't come around very often. I've only rapped twice. Thanks, Megs. Meg says I'm a great singer. It's because I think you and I are just as bad as each other. We sort of drown ourselves out. Hang on, what have we got here? Oh, an Auga Buzzard. Is it an Auga Buzzard? It looks like it. Let's just have a quick look at my bird book. Here's my bird book. That's beautiful. It has got a very rufous tail. Reminds me a lot of a jackal buzzard. But I do just want to quickly check. Or is it not? Is it a hawk eagle? Oh my goodness, my birding has become atrocious. I just want to very quickly check. Where is this page? What am I looking for? Let's quickly just check buzzard. Now this book is so big because it's got all the birds in Africa. It takes me like 10 years to scroll through the page trying to find the one I want. 98, let's go 98, 98, 98. Almost there. Boom. Sorry I'm taking so long. What are you eating? Oh, it's eating alates too. So they were all released. It is an Auga Buzzard, just by the way. Beautiful bird. Just having a quick look at it. Just wanted to confirm before I misidentified it. Now, obviously, yesterday with that nice soaking rain, it made for a very, very nice soft ground. All the alates were being released from the mounds. Whether they were termites or ant alates, I'm not sure. It's a bit hard to tell, but this area is just littered with wings at the moment. So I think it's trying to get some that didn't make it. It's actually got a bit of wings still sticking out. It's a bit annoying. It's got stuck there. Not that the wings would be very nutritional, but the alates itself are beautiful. That is very cool. This bird is right up close to the car. I don't think I've ever had such a close view before. There we go. There's a mound. Let's see if it's looking to see if anybody is escaping. There we go. There's one. Yum. Delicious. And they're just going to eat and eat and eat as many as they can. I'm trying to see where exactly they're coming out of the ground. So they must still be being released somewhere. Maybe if we follow this bird, we'll figure out exactly where they're coming out of the ground. And we've got another one. And everything will eat this, from white-tailed mongoose to banded mongoose to some snakes, frogs, lizards, of course raptors, hyena are even known to go and feed on a termite mound that's releasing alates. That's amazing. That is so beautiful. So there we go. I hope that for those of you who are seeing an Auga Buzzard for the first time, this is probably the best view you're going to get. This is the best sighting I've ever had of one. And how I actually identified it. I identified it. I should create my own language. It's actually by that rufous tail. Obviously, it's got quite a bit of black on it. It's quite dark, a little bit of mottled sort of rufous spots on its body, but that red tail. They do remind me quite a bit of jackal buzzards. Jackal buzzards, much bigger though. And colorations, well, I suppose that actually they've got very dramatic coloration too. And then not a true eagle. See how the feathers don't go all the way down to the feet? They sort of stop. It's like it's wearing 3/4 pants. Very cool though. Big talons as well. But not huge. suppose this bird's feet sort of in proportion to the size of its body, so it's going for smaller things. I think those are termite alates. They're quite large for it to be maybe an ant alate. They're actually particularly big. Very nice. You're going to fill your crop up quite quickly. That's beautiful, and gorgeous light on it too. I hope you're taking nice screenshots, and if this is a new bird for you, you must always let us know, #SafariLive, as to what number it is, or if you haven't started a bird list yet, here's a great bird to add number 1 to your list. Wow, wow, wow. I'm kind of envious, and I hope you do share them with us, because I might need to share some of these pictures. I'm very jealous that I'm not snapping away. So I think this bird's just going to carry on walking around here, looking for all those alates to eat. I might try and take a sneaky snap, but I'm going to send you back across to the main girl who's on foot walking around the Sabi sand, and I'm sure she's having the time of her life.
Thanks, Taylor. We have found an egg. So we have an egg like this. It's also a treehouse dam that Tris and Senzo and I were talking about. So myself and Jean-Andre and Herbie were just talking about this one. We are saying Egyptian goose. Herbie also found the tracks just now for that. And I was saying, yes, but it's not in a little nest here and there. I think something actually probably came and took it. Maybe the parents chased it away and then just didn't bring it back. And then Herbie and I were just discussing, maybe it's the bad one. Maybe the parents can tell that there's something wrong with it, so they've sort of just left it out here, but it's all conjecture. We can't really know for sure, but that's Egyptian goose egg, and if you can see, that's about the size of the egg. Then, on our way here, I found you this. So it's not ripe yet, but it is a marula fruit. When they're ripe, they're yellow. We saw the pips this morning. The marula fruit's so delicious. Again, really high in vitamin C, very sweet. This you don't want to eat. This will give you bad tummy. All right. Then, the animals that I was hoping would be here are not here. But if we take a small little stroll along the side, you can actually see what's coming down to drink. So you've got, sorry, let me just move my shadow, elephant tracks from our Ellies from yesterday. Let's see if I can find you. Here's a nice Egyptian goose track. If you come down, we've got one middle toe, one side toe, and a side toe. So there's the side toe again, middle toe, side toe. Can't see the webbing as much, but the webbing's just up in there. And then no back. Here's the other one. You can see a little bit of webbing. This is actually a better example now that I see it just over there. Okay. And then you can hear the blacksmith lapwings in the background creating a ruckus, basically telling us to go away, get out of here. But you can also see their tracks here. Here's the blacksmith lapwing track. Long toe, no back toe. And then the little tiny ones that look almost identical will be a 3-banded plover. Lapwings used to be plovers, they then changed the name. We'll see what else came down to drink here. I'm sure the guys that watch the webcam could let us know. But it's always interesting to see if you can read the story from the tracks that you find. Impala came down, Nyala came down. Now I'm taking... Very fair, watch out for the crocodiles. You actually read my mind. I was just about to say, I'm taking a lot of chances. I'm walking very close to the edge. Crocs can jump about twice their own body length, but they usually give some sort of a notice, so I will make sure not to be eaten on my second day at work. Okay. I believe the birthday boy has a special surprise for you all. I'm going to link to him. I'm going to let him carry on. Thank you for joining me for a bushwalk today. It's been excellent. Cheers, Tristan.
Well, we've slowly but surely gotten ourselves dressed up. I might be a little bit too close, but as you can see, this is what the crew has decided I should be wearing on game drive. Whether this is applicable to game drive or not, I'm not quite sure. I feel as though I could be the Tristina that Taylor referred to, well, at least the giraffe. Senzo says I should flick my hair. Now, I don't know how ladies have hair like this. It's just ridiculous in every single way. Thanks, Megs. Meg says I look great. Thanks, Megan. It's really quite uncomfortable and very hot. It's itchy and it's warm and, well, it's all over the place. But anyway, why we get ourselves into this situation, I have no idea. I don't even know why I ended up agreeing to this. But what harm can it do? It's a bit of fun, and it is a birthday after all, so you might as well have a little bit of a laugh and enjoy oneself. And so I'm going to wave my locks, and having a little pink sort of hair, it feels all a bit odd, to be honest. But anyway, now thank you to all of those that did wish me a happy birthday. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you've had a wonderful drive with us and that you have enjoyed the antics of the last few days since Halloween. It seems as though it's just been a bit of chaos on this vehicle, on Rusty, with lots of different outfits and hats and all kinds of other things. But we certainly have had fun, and we should hopefully have a good day ahead of us. I believe that we've got a cake, cake is always good. I'll have to show a photo later, or maybe Ali can make a guest appearance with her cake that she made last night so nicely for me. So that's probably on the cards for this afternoon. But it has been an excellent morning. I know Noel's thoroughly enjoyed being out on foot. I'm sure Jeandre has as well. And Taylor, well, she I'm sure has enjoyed bumbling around the Masai Mara with Dave the Dish, and I'm sure they had lots of fun on that side of the world. And hopefully this afternoon it'll be a little bit busier from her side. But from everybody, myself and Senzo included, and Megan and FC, it's been a wonderful morning, and we'll see you all this afternoon on the Sunset Safari.